The alien slaver ship arrived without warning, tearing open the night sky above a quiet coastal city, streets that had known only traffic and rain filled, with blue fire and screaming air as gravity nets dropped, scooping up humans like insects. Panic spread faster than sound. Families were torn apart. Hands slipped from hands. By the time Earth's defenses responded, the ship was already leaving, heavy with stolen lives. In the cargo hold, the captives lay bound in humming restraints, their bodies pressed against cold alloy flooring. Fear had weight there, thick and suffocating. Some cried openly. Others stared at nothing, their minds already retreating inward. The slavers walked among them, tall and armored, clicking in amusement as they discussed prices, labor yields, and survival rates. One human did not look away. He sat with his back straight despite the restraints forcing his shoulders forward. His face was bruised, blood dried at his temple, but his eyes were clear. They moved constantly, not in panic, but in calculation. He watched guard rotations. He noted weapon types, reaction times, and blind spots. Every sound meant something. Every movement was catalogued. A slaver noticed him and stopped. "This one is broken wrong," it rasped, prodding his chest with a shock baton. Pain ripped through him, sharp and electrical, forcing his muscles to spasm. He exhaled slowly and met the creature's gaze without hatred or plea. The slaver recoiled, unsettled, then laughed to cover its discomfort. "Still defiant," it said. "That will fade." The human said nothing. Hours blurred into cycles of dim, light and vibration as the ship slipped into faster-than-light travel. Time lost meaning. Hunger gnawed. Thirst burned. Screams echoed occasionally from other compartments, each one carving deeper lines of despair into the hold. The human endured it all in silence, conserving energy, conserving focus. Beside him, a teenage boy trembled uncontrollably, his breathing shallow and erratic. "I don't want to die," the boy whispered, voice breaking. The human turned his head carefully. "You're not dying today," he said. His voice was calm, grounded, the kind that carried certainty without force. The boy clung to that sound like a lifeline. When guards came to make an example, the human took the blows meant for others when he could. He fell correctly, protecting vital organs. He learned how much force shattered alien bone, how their joints rotated, how they reacted to resistance. Each punishment taught him something new. The slavers never noticed the pattern. They believed fear made humans weak. They believed suffering erased will. They believed technology equaled dominance. Those beliefs made them careless. During a routine system cycle, the lights dimmed for less than a second as power rerouted through the ship. Most never noticed. The human did. He felt the restraints loosen by a fraction, a design flaw caused by energy redistribution. It wasn't enough to escape. Not yet, but it was enough to hope. He shifted his hands slightly, testing limits, ignoring the pain as energy bit into his skin. He slowed his breathing, syncing it with the ship's pulse. Around him, despair thickened, but inside him, something hardened into resolve. He remembered training in the rain, lungs burning, instructors shouting that the body breaks long before the will does. He remembered comrades who never made it home. He remembered promises carved into silence. The slavers believed this ship was secure. They believed the humans were beaten. They believed they had taken prey. They were wrong. As the lights returned to full brightness, the human closed his eyes, not in surrender, but in preparation. His jaw tightened. His muscles tensed imperceptibly. Somewhere deep within, a switch flipped, cold and absolute. The ship carried many captives, but it had kidnapped the wrong human. He did not know how long it would take, or how many would survive once violence answered cruelty. But he accepted that uncertainty without hesitation. Survival had never been about guarantees. It was about action taken at the precise moment fear expected paralysis. Around him, humans whispered prayers, curses, memories of home. He listened, not to comfort himself, but to remember what was at stake. Every voice anchored him. Every stolen life sharpened his intent. A guard passed again, armored boots striking the floor with lazy confidence. The human memorized the rhythm. 3 steps, pause, turn, another pause. Patterns repeated because arrogance demanded efficiency. He waited through another cycle, then another, patience coiling tighter each time. When the moment finally came, it would come fast. No speeches, no mercy, only movement, consequence, and blood. The galaxy believed humans were fragile. their strength an illusion of numbers. Soon, someone would learn the cost of that mistake. The human opened his eyes, and for the first time since capture, he smiled. The reckoning had already begun inside him. When the lights dimmed again, the human moved. This time, the flicker lasted longer. A heartbeat stretched by failing systems and overworked conduits. He twisted his wrist, ignoring the wet snap of bone, and slid free of the restraint before it could tighten again. Pain screamed, but discipline smothered it. He rolled to his feet as a guard turned, surprise flashing too late. The first strike crushed the alien's throat. The second took its weapon. The third ensured silence. The human dragged the body into shadow, breathing evenly while alarms slept. Around him, fear froze the captives, eyes wide as they watched him act without hesitation. He met their stares briefly, nodding once, a promise without words. He moved through the hold with controlled urgency, disabling restraints, whispering commands, assigning positions. Some hands shook too badly to hold weapons. He adjusted their grip, steadied their breathing, gave them purpose. Courage followed clarity. When the first alarm finally screamed, it was already meaningless. Guards poured in, firing wildly. The human used the chaos, redirecting fire, forcing angles, turning arrogance against itself. He took wounds that would have ended others, adapting instantly, using pain as information. Blood slicked the floor. Smoke choked the air. Screams layered over alarms until sound lost structure. A slaver commander seized a hostage, pressing a blade against a woman's throat. "Stop!" it shrieked. "You are one. We are many." The human slowed, hands lowering fractionally. His eyes locked on the blade, on the trembling grip. He stepped forward deliberately, drawing attention, buying time. Then he threw a piece of debris not at the commander, but at a console. Sparks exploded. The woman dropped as the lights died. The human crossed the distance in a blur. The blade fell. The commander followed. By the time they reached the corridor outside the bridge, resistance had thinned to desperation. The human paused, listening to the ship's wounded hum, feeling vibrations through his boots. He knew this space now. He had learned it through violence and necessity. The captives gathered behind him, no longer just victims, but allies bound by survival. One of them asked quietly, "Who are you?" He considered the question as he checked his weapon. "Someone who doesn't like cages," he said. They breached the bridge together. It was faster than expected. The slavers had planned for obedience, not revolt. When it ended, the human stood amid ruined consoles and drifting smoke. Shoulders heavy but steady, he shut down engines, locked navigation, and set a distress signal wide enough to be heard by anyone who mattered. As escape pods launched, he stayed behind, ensuring no human was left shackled or forgotten. When the last pod ejected, he entered it alone, watching the slaver ship drift powerless now. He felt no triumph, only grim satisfaction. As the stars stretched ahead, he closed his eyes briefly, knowing this was no ending. Somewhere, others like these slavers waited, confident and cruel. They would hear rumors. They would learn fear, and one day they would learn his name. He did not speak it aloud. Names carried weight, and weight attracted attention. Instead, he memorized the faces of the rescued. The way gratitude mixed with trauma, the way survival reshaped them instantly. He understood that what he had started would not end with one ship. Violence, once answered, echoed. The distress signal would bring help, but it would also bring questions. He welcomed neither, yet accepted both. Accountability mattered. So did witnesses. As the pod slipped into safer space, he checked his injuries with detached precision, setting bones, sealing wounds, ignoring the tremor that followed adrenaline's retreat. He thought of Earth, of streets now quiet, of people unaware of how close they had come to being forgotten. He thought of the slaver's confidence, of how easily it had shattered. The galaxy had rules written by the strong. Tonight, a footnote had been added. The human opened his eyes and fixed them on the stars, already planning what came next, already bracing for the cost. Rescue was only the beginning. Somewhere, chains still waited to be broken, and he would not stop moving until they were. That certainty steadied him more than rest ever could. Purpose dulled pain and sharpened focus. Whatever name the galaxy eventually gave him, it would be earned through action, not legend. For now, there was work ahead, and silence to keep. The pod continued onward, carrying survivors, carrying consequences, and carrying a human who understood that mercy and wrath could share the same hands. He allowed himself one slow breath, then another, preparing for the moment the universe pushed back. It always did, and he would be ready when it did. The quiet before that collision felt almost peaceful. For now, that was enough, to keep him moving. The rescue signal brought help, but it also brought attention. Human ships arrived first, cautious and stunned by the state of the drifting pod and the survivors it carried. Questions followed, sharp and relentless. But the human answered only what was necessary. He gave coordinates, casualty numbers, tactical summaries. He withheld his name. He watched medics work, watched former captives flinch at sudden movements, and felt the weight of responsibility settle deeper into his bones. Recovery took days, then weeks. Wounds closed, bones mended, sleep came in fragments. The human trained in isolation, rebuilding strength with the same discipline that had carried him through captivity. Survivors sought him out, drawn by something steadier than hope. He taught them how to breathe through fear, how to stand when memory tried to bend them back into cages. He never promised safety. He promised readiness. The slavers did not remain silent. Rumors spread through black channels and outlaw ports. Entire crews vanished. Ships were found drifting, intact but empty. Survivors spoke of one human who moved like consequence made flesh. They shared a single word, spoken with dread rather than understanding. Reaper. The name reached him eventually. He did not correct it. When another raid struck a frontier settlement, he was already moving. He arrived before reinforcements, stepping into fire without hesitation. This time he did not fight alone. Those he had trained stood with him, not fearless but resolute. They protected evacuation routes, disabled enemy armor, and refused to break. The human took the heaviest resistance, drawing attention where it would save lives. At the heart of the battle, he boarded the slaver command ship. The corridors felt familiar, too familiar. He advanced methodically, clearing resistance, sealing bulkheads, denying escape. The commander waited on the bridge, surrounded by guards whose confidence faltered with every distant explosion. "You are disrupting commerce," the commander snarled. "You cannot win this war alone." The human stopped within striking distance. "I'm not alone," he said, thinking of the people behind him, the ones who had learned to stand again. The fight ended quickly. When it was over, the human stood amid wreckage, breathing hard, feeling the tremor of exhaustion finally surface. He shut down the ship and transmitted evidence to every authority that would listen. Justice, he had learned, required witnesses as much as force. In the aftermath, freed captives gathered around him, gratitude raw and unfiltered. One asked softly, "What do we call you?" He looked at them, really looked, seeing strength where fear had once lived. "Call me whatever helps you remember you survived," he said. As days passed, he moved on again, refusing permanence. The galaxy was vast, and suffering rarely announced itself politely. He followed signals, rumors, the quiet intuition honed by loss. Each victory cost him something, but each life saved paid it back in ways numbers could not measure. The legend grew despite his efforts. To the oppressed, it became a promise. To the cruel, a warning. To him, it remained a reminder that action mattered more than identity. He was not vengeance. He was resistance given direction. Standing on a quiet ridge overlooking a rebuilt settlement, he watched children run where chains had once dragged. The sound anchored him. He allowed himself a rare stillness, knowing it would not last. Somewhere, another ship was lifting off with stolen lives. Somewhere, fear was winning. He turned toward the stars, shoulders squared, and started walking again. The path ahead was endless, but so was his resolve. The universe had learned something important, even if it did not yet understand it fully. Humans were not defined by their cages, and monsters did not get to choose when the reckoning ended. The human disappeared into the night, leaving behind proof that resilience could be taught, that courage could spread, and that freedom, once defended, became contagious. The story would continue, carried by those who refused to forget, and by one man who kept moving, because stopping had never been an option.